In this case study, we'll be looking at text manipulations. There are a variety of functions to manipulate text data. This function can be used to format, extract, and modify string. So when it comes to working with SQL query, we also do some text manipulations with your query as well. And when I'm talking about text manipulation, I'm talking about you are trying to join two things, which is you are trying to concat. So you are trying to join two things. You are trying to do a stop string to extract a portion of a string. You're also trying to kind of return the length of a string. So maybe you want to know the length of a strings. You want to convert your character into upper cases or lower cases. You want to remove some unnecessary space from your data, which is string. You also want to replace a stop string with a string. You want to replace, right? So these are all regards to text manipulations. If you're used to Excel very well, you know we do this a lot in Excel by doing concat, doing trim, even in Power Query for those that used Power Query before. You can do the same thing with your SQL. So in this problem solving case, we're going to explore different text manipulation problem solving. So let's start with number one. So the first problem solving under text manipulations is looking at, we should combine the name and neighborhood column into a single string, right? So we want to combine the name and neighborhood. So name and neighborhood together, and wants to use a dash as the delimiter to join them, right? So combine the name and then listing column and use the delimiter to join them. So let's go to our Azure Data Studio. So here, I'm going to kind of do text manipulation. Let's say test manipulation, right? So I'm on problem solving number one for test manipulation. Problem solving one, right? Problem solving one. So here, what I want to do is I want to join things, right? So I'm going to say select. I'm going to start with select as usual because I'm creating the table. Now, I want to bring in those things that I want to join, right? So I will start with a syntax called concat. Right? Concat. For those that have used this before, there's concat in Excel, there's concatenate in Excel. So use a syntax called concat, right? Concat, right? Once I select concat here, it opens a bracket. Now, what do you want to join, right? So you can actually signify what you want to join and how you want to join these things. So inside here, I can say I want to join them, right? And then comma. What delimiter did you want to put when you want to join these things? I can say I want to use the hyphen, which is like dash, comma, and then what do you want to join it with? I want to join it with neighborhood. Neighborhood, right? I want to join it with neighborhood. Then you close your bracket. So you are concatenating name and you are joining it with hyphen with neighborhood. That's what you're doing. And then you are writing this as. Now, this is where as come in. As allows you to give a name to a particular column inside your table or even a table. So you are renaming or you're giving something a name. That is when you use as. So I can say as listing underscore info, right? So this is the listing info. I'm renaming this as listing info. When you concat the name and the neighborhood together, I want to call it listing info. That's the name that I want to call this concatenation. And I'm doing that from the Airbnb listing table, right? The Airbnb listing table. So you can see it's a very simple query. I'm selecting, I'm concatenating name, I'm joining it to neighborhood as listing info. So when I highlight this now and I run this query right now, you will see that it has joined the name and also the neighborhood for me, right? With hyphen. So when you look at this, you will see Glorious Some Room, Memory Foam, hyphen, Georgetown. And you also see the coolest tangerine dream, which is the name of the listing, hyphen, the neighborhood, which is the neighborhood where this is. And that is why we have the listing info. So that is problem case study number one under text manipulation. So this is how your query should look like. You are selecting, you are concatenating the name and neighborhood as listing info from Airbnb listing. Problem number solving 2, we are extracting the first 10 characters from the name because we're trying to get a short name now. Because those names are too long, it's very hard for us to read it. So you may want to extract some little part of those names, right? Which is the short names. So we can extract the first 10 characters from the names. So if I go back to my query and I say problem solving number 2 for text manipulation. So problem solving 2 for text manipulation. Here I'm also going to select, right? Now I want to just extract the short name. So I can say substring, right? Substring is also another syntax that allows you to kind of extract from a string. So I can say I want to extract name, right? Comma. Now, the first argument says, what do you want to extract? Where do you want to start from? That's the next argument. Starting position. Where do you want to start from? I want to start from the first character. Now, what is the length of the characters that you want to extract? I want to extract 10. That is a 10. I want to extract just 10 characters. Now, I'm going to give this a name as well. So I'll say, once you've done this, I want to call this a short name, right? Underscore name. I want to call it short name. And I'm extracting this from Airbnb listing. Airbnb listing, right? This is where I'm extracting it from. So short name from Airbnb listing. If I run this query right now, you will see it's going to give me a very short name. Fab, Prav, Glorious, because now I now have not too long names because I have short names. That is not too longs, right? That's problem case study solving number 2. Now let's explore another problem in text manipulation. This is how your query should look like. You are selecting the source strings. You are selecting the name of the column, where you are starting from, how many characters you want to extract. You're giving it a name, and then you select the table you want to do that from. Problem solving number 3 is to find the length of each reviewer name in the Airbnb reviewer table. Now we are looking at reviewer table. You've been looking at listing table. Now I want to look at the reviewer table to say we are finding the length of each reviewer's name in the Airbnb review table. We want to know how long their names is, right? So if I go back to my Visual Studio, and then I'm calling this problem solving number 3. So I'm also select, right? Reviewer name. I think the name has underscore. So I'm selecting the name of the reviewer, right? Putting the comma. Okay, so basically I want to know the length of the data, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select len, right? So len allows you to count the number of characters in a string, right? So I'm going to put what I want to count in there. So reviewer underscore name, right? Reviewer underscore name. Then I'm going to call this as name underscore length, right? Name length. So from where are we taking this from? So we are taking this from the reviewer table, Airbnb reviewer table. So if you look at this, I'm just going to run this right now. Once I run this, you will see the name and the length. So you will see Vivian, and the length of Vivian name is 6. Elliot, the length of Elliot name is 6. Okay, so this is how your query should look like. So you are selecting the reviewer name. You also use len to know the number of characters, and you are giving that a name from the Airbnb table. So let's look at another problem solving. So now we are converting all reviewer names to uppercase. That's what we want to do. So we want to convert all our reviewer names to uppercase. So uppercase is what we want to convert this to. So let me go back to my editor here, and I'm going to call this problem solving number 4 for text manipulation. Problem solving number 4 for text manipulation. And here I'm going to do select, right? What am I selecting? I'm selecting upper. Upper is the syntax that allows you to kind of convert something to uppercase, right? So I'm selecting upper, reviewer name, reviewer underscore name, right? And I'm giving that a new name. So I can call it uppercase underscore name. That's what I want to call this once I reviewed it. Then I'm doing that from the review table, right? So once I select this as well, and I run this problem number 4, you will see that it has changed all of the names to uppercase. Every of the name is now uppercase, right? So it's quite simple. This is how your solutions should look like when you are done. Select uppercase review name as uppercase from the Airbnb table, right? Now, let's look at another problem solving here. We also want to do something like replace all occurrences of APT with unit in the room type column, right? So we want to replace everywhere where APT occur with unit. So instead of having apartment, we want to change it to unit. So if I want to do that, I can go back to my Azure Data Studio, and then I can copy this guy and say we want to have test manipulation case study problem solving 5, right? Problem solving 5. And here we are basically doing select again. Select. What are we selecting? Let's say we want to select the ID. We want to bring in the ID, right? And then we want to replace. So there's also a syntax called replace, right? And replace allows you to replace stuff. So what column do we want to replace from? That's the first thing you're going to put in there. There's a column called room type. That's the column we want to replace from. And then from this column, I want to replace every occurrence of APT, which is apartment, to unit. So I'm going to type unit here. Every occurrence of APT to unit. So I want to replace that with unit. And then I want to give this a column. I want to give this a new column, and I'm going to call it replaced room type, right? That's what we should call it, replace room type. And where are we doing this from? From Airbnb listing. From the listing table. So if I run this query right now, and you see this, so you will see that we now have unit instead of APT, right? Unit instead of APT. You can see it is now all unit, all unit, all unit, all unit. Compared to maybe if I go back and run some of these queries that we have here, where we have select star, and then I run this. So if you look at our room type here, yeah, room type here kind of have APT, APT, APT in front of them. But right now we kind of get rid of APT and we rename them with unit. So when you run this, you will see that we now have unit in front of them.